Hey, today I'm talking about my top 5 favorite old movies that I watched for the first time in 2024. And this is out of a total of 252 old movies from across the year. Captain Blood. This is a 1935 pirate movie, and the basic premise is Errol Flynn plays Dr. Blood. He's just kind of a neutral guy. He doesn't really want to get involved in revolutions or anything like that. But he is a doctor, so he does help those who are injured. And so he goes to help an injured rebellion man, and after that, he gets sentenced to be hung to death. But then instead he ends up becoming a slave, and then technically spoilers, he eventually becomes a pirate. And yeah, it's really, really good. The story's really great. The action's awesome. I loved how they plotted it as well. Just because like he doesn't become a pirate until halfway through the movie, which I think worked really, really well because they really built up to that moment. And then we got so much time with him as the pirate doing shenanigans. And I really loved like his moral code too, because he's definitely a flawed person, but he's trying to do right by himself. And then he wants to help others, but there's all this injustice that's happening to both him and people around him. And just, yeah, no, it's a really good, really well-made movie. I also really loved how they did like the love story aspect to it, just because like there is an immediate connection between him and Olivia, but then there's also an immediate animosity too, just because of the circumstances surrounding their meeting. And so there's just a lot of bickering between them in general, so it takes a while for them to get to their kiss. And getting there feels really, really earned, just because they had to go through so much and they evolved and grew as people in that time. So yeah, this is a really good, really well-made, fun movie with a great, fantastic story, really interesting premise, and just, yeah, it worked. Top to bottom, it was really, really good. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie and without a doubt recommend it. If you want a good, fun, interesting movie, look no further. This is a good, fun, interesting movie. Before Sunrise. This is a 1995 film, and the basic premise is this American boy is traveling through Europe by rail, and one day strikes up a conversation with this incredibly beautiful French woman. Unfortunately, after a little while, he has to get off the train, and so he makes an impulsive decision to ask her to come with him. And then they spend the rest of the movie just walking around Prague, chatting about life and romance and sex and everything in between, and it's so incredibly good. Within the first 20 minutes of the movie, I thought to myself, how come I didn't watch this movie a decade ago? Like, it feels like such a great tragedy that I've spent so much of my life without this movie. It's so beautiful and so incredibly well done. Like, I kept thinking to myself, that was such an incredible line. I have to remember that. And then like the next scene would happen or the next conversation would happen, and I would think the same thing again over and over for the entire film. And like it essentially just equated to I wanted to remember everything from the movie because there were just so many incredible moments and lines. It just such an incredibly well done film. And it's so impressive too because like it feels like it's improvised, that it's like this is just an actual conversation that we're witnessing, but it's not. It's all pre-planned out. Every single like overlapping line of dialogue was planned out. It just goes to show how good the writing was and how good the performances were, that they were able to sound and feel so naturalistic. I loved everything about this movie. It just consumed me. It was such a beautifully done, incredible experience. I cannot wait to watch this movie again, and I cannot recommend this movie highly enough. It's so well done and 100% worth a watch. Shrek. This is a 2001 movie, and man, where do I begin with this movie? So I think I kind of went into this with a little lower expectations just because this movie's become so memeified. There's so many jokes from this movie that are just everywhere. And Shrek in and of himself has become this thing much larger than the movie that's just pure ridiculousness. But this is such a fantastic film. I was so blown away by it. A big part of it is its earnestness. Like, yeah, Shrek is making fun of fairy fairy tales. For sure, like he literally starts the movie by wiping his ass with a page from a fairy tale. But there's a brilliant moment when they get to the castle and Donkey's like, oh, where is the princess? And Shrek knows the answer. Because even though, yeah, he makes fun of fairy tales and he thinks they're stupid, also does love them. He loves the idea of them. He loves the romance of them. And that's really shown throughout the entire movie. Like, yeah, this is poking fun of lots of Disney stuff in particular and what fairy tales have definitely become in this modern era. But it is a fairy tale in and of itself, and it's not afraid to be that, and it's not ashamed to be that. So that's great. Secondly, hot dang, the messaging of this movie is incredible. Like, what the basic story is, it's about societal pressures that we then internalize into self-hate, and finding those people in our lives that'll help us stop the cycle of hate, that truly see us for who we are and break the wheel that is hating oneself. One of the most beautiful moments of the movie is when Donkey meets Shrek. Donkey's running away from being captured. He hides behind Shrek, and Shrek's a dick to the humans, and they run away. And then Shrek tries to scare Donkey away, but Donkey's not having any of it. And Shrek just is like very point blank about it and is like, don't you fear me and are afraid of me like everyone else? And Donkey's just like with a big old smile on his face, like, nah, dude, we vibing, man. And like the look of shock on Shrek's face is so powerful. He's finally found a person that's not just an asshole to him. And so he just like immediately switches gears, and it's so powerful. And then it happens again with Fiona, but in a different way, which is really beautifully well done, because Fiona, like everyone else, immediately judges Shrek by his appearance, hates him, scared of him, and so of course there's animosity there. But then in the best scene of the movie, Shrek reveals himself to Donkey fully and admits his insecurities. And Fiona overhears this and realizes she messed up, that she's treating Shrek exactly how she doesn't want to be treated, how she fears to be treated. That night scene is just so well done. And it has such a great end cap too, because Donkey doesn't fully grasp what Shrek has gone through his entire life, all the pain that he's gone through, because he hasn't experienced it himself. He's experienced lots of pain, but it's different kinds of pain. And he's kind of able to shrug a lot of it off just because he's a very optimistic person, the music in life. And at the end of the scene, Donkey's, I forget his exact words, but he essentially apologizes. And Shrek's like, no, you're good. You never did this. We're good. And it's such a beautiful and earnest moment. And I can't get over how incredible it is. Wow, I really love this movie. This movie is definitely simplistic, and I mostly don't mind the simplistic nature of the movie because at its core, it's about self-hatred and how complicated that is. So it in a sense balances out. Also, the music slaps. So yes, I ridiculously crazy love this movie and wholeheartedly recommend it. It is a brilliant film that just top to bottom works so great. 100% would recommend. It's a freaking perfect movie. Polytechnique. This is a 2009 film inspired by a true event. Part of me kind of doesn't want to explain the premise because the way they introduce the story into the film is really well done and just really sets the tone for the whole film. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna praise the film a little bit without saying what the premise is, and then if you're not convinced, I will then get into more of the specifics. But yeah, no, I loved this film. It is masterfully done, and he really hit his stride here. He took like a 9-year break between his first two, and yeah, no, he came back swinging. This film is so good. It nails the emotions so well. I was very clearly experiencing emotions the entire way through. It's a beautifully told story, and I think it does the real life event that it's based off of justice and really like doesn't romanticize anything. It really just like tells the story incredibly tastefully. I 100% recommend it. It's a magnificently done film. So yeah, if you're a fan of any of his films, I would without a doubt recommend it. Even if you're not a fan of his films, I would still recommend it. Though a little bit cautiously because it touches on some sensitive subjects, which I will now say. What it's based off of is in 1989, there was a school shooting at a university in Canada. It's a slow, quiet film, but it's so incredibly tense. Like the opening scene literally starts with a bang. For me personally, I was just tense the entire time. And especially especially like once the shooting actually began, it really ramped up. Like even though like the guy's just walking around, it's just like anything could happen. It's also just like so heartbreaking and frustrating too, because like his reason for committing mass murder is, in his words, he hates feminists, but in reality, he just hates women and himself. It's so frustrating, but like in a good way, like the way that the film's supposed to be making you frustrated. It's an incredibly well done film from top to bottom. It's beautiful and haunting and terrifying, and it nails the emotions. It's an experience. It's such an experience. So yes, wholeheartedly recommend it, though cautiously, because you know, not everyone wants to see a school shooting, and that's fair. You don't need to see it if that's not your vibe, but if you think you can handle it, it's definitely worth it because it's incredible. 20th Century Girl. This is a 2022 film, and the basic premise is, in 1999, there are these two best friends, one of whom has a heart condition and she has to go to America to deal with it. And what makes matters worse is she just had a really great meet cute moment with an adorable boy. So she enlists her best friend to spy on the cute boy during the new school year and then report back to her everything she learns about him while she's gone. So then when she comes back, she will be able to woo him with all of this inside knowledge. So the best friend does this, but then maybe she gets a little attracted to the boy's best friend. And it's amazing. I loved this movie so much. Like legitimately, by the end of the movie, by like halfway through the movie, my face was hurting from how much I was smiling and frowning. Like, it's super adorable, like almost over the top with just how cute this movie is. But then like it balances that out with going to some sad places. There's like a 10-minute chunk where I'm just straight frowning the entire time, and it was just it was a lot of emotions. It's just, oh God, it's so good. I loved the lead, the best friend character, but really all of the actors did a great job. They're really interesting characters, really fun story. It goes to some fun places, and it has a great ending. It's not necessarily the ending that you hope for, but it's the ending that makes a lot of sense. Cause like, it's really about teenagers not being able to properly express their emotions because they're teenagers. That makes sense. And like, it's so frustrating at times, but in a good way, in the way the movie intended it to be. But you're just like, just tell the guy how you feel. Tell that person how you feel. Just use your words, and then things will be better. Everyone knows things will be better if you just talk this through. Come on, just do it. And then they don't, and then things get worse because of that. But it's all in like a very realistic way. So yeah, the movie's just about like those missed opportunities that happen if you don't properly express your emotions. And yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's so incredibly well done. I love this movie a lot, and I cannot recommend this movie enough. It's delightful, it's charming, it's sad, it's beautiful, it hits all the boxes and then some. So yes, 100% recommend this movie. Watch it, it's incredible. Yes.